Good morning. I'm going to try that again. Good morning. Thank you. All right, everybody is awake. As we start off this morning, I'm going to ask Chairman Sam Watson, if he will, to do an invocation for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's pray. Dear Father, we just thank you for this day. We just thank you for waking us up this morning, because that should tell us that you're still working in our lives and through our lives, and just help us to do that. Dear Lord, you just bless this great state with many resources, and just help us to use those resources wisely and spend them as you would see fit. Dear Lord, I just want to pray for the people of Southwest Georgia again, dear Lord. They're still dealing with issues, and I just ask and pray that you give them strength to continue to move forward and clean up and make life good again. Just be with everybody that's here, and be with us this week as we continue to work with the issues of our state. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one small item of business to cover before we get to the bill at hand, House Bill 130, the amended FY19 budget, and the rules, committee rules, since this is our first meeting of the biennium. And on your desk, we've got the copy of rules out there, and these are the same that we have adopted, I think, over the last 4 or 5 sessions. No changes to them. And have a motion and numerous seconds do pass. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All righty. And so at this point, I will yield the chairman's chair to our vice chairman, Representative Perkle, and I'll present our bill.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee to present the bill. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning again. You have in front of you the tracking sheet, which is by far the easiest way to keep up with any of the changes made within the document. And so we'll walk through that, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have at the end of walking through it. So Section 1, Georgia Senate, no changes. House of Representatives, Section 2, no changes. Under Section 3, the joint offices of the General Assembly, we do have to make the changes in the first 3 or 4 sections, because those are due to separation of powers. That falls to us to make those changes. So you'll see an increase there for the self-insurance programs. I'll say more about those. There's several of those throughout the document. But also increase of funds, half the share, the General Assembly share, for some ongoing litigation, a couple of IT positions, and then the new HR director that will be taking over HR duties for the House and the Senate and the joint offices here shortly. Under the Office of Legislative Counsel at 3.3.1, half of the requested salary need for some increases there, and some operating expenses for the Office of Legislative Counsel. Under Section 4, the Office of Department of Audits and Accounts, you'll see an adjustment again for premiums for our self-insured insurance programs at 4.2.1, and you'll see those again throughout the document, most of the agencies. Those additional adjustments are, in one way or another, sort of hurricane related. Since we do self-insure ourselves for our state property, we do have to increase premiums from time to time to cover those actual expenses incurred when we do have losses throughout the state. So that number does fluctuate from one year to the next. So you'll see those changes throughout. Section 5, Court of Appeals. The DOS changed. That would be the last time I mention that one unless I mess up. Then you'll see an adjustment on per diem at 5.1.2. with some of the changes between the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, some of the judgeships where they reside, so the per diem rates have changed just a little bit. 5.1.4, Chairman Welch and his committee felt like that for these full-time positions we would hold off and consider those in the 20 budget. Another thing you're going to see throughout the document as well as changes are where our subcommittees have gone through and looked at start dates for new positions that were added in the 19 budget last year as we left here. Our staff is incredibly good at going back and looking at when those positions were actually hired. We fund them typically from July 1 through June 30 for the fiscal year. However, many of the agencies, as they go out to make these new hires, they have a little bit of trouble from time to time finding individuals, so it may be a September start date, it may be a February start date or whatever. So we've gone through in many places and captured some of those savings, and in some cases redirected some of those savings into other asks from these agencies. So at 6.1.1, 3.1, and 3.1, those are savings on actual start dates. 4.1, again, DOAS insurance. Juvenile court, 7.1.1, again, start dates there. And then 7.2.1 is not necessary at this point in time, so we've made that deduction, but actually, I said that wrong. The language needed to be different in the way that increase was included. So you'll see 7.2.2 is the correction of the language there. Section 8, prosecuting attorneys. 8.2.2, again, adjustment on start dates, and you'll see another change on self-insurance. Then going over to Superior Court, Section 9, you'll see another adjustment for start dates, 9.3.3. Under Supreme Court, 10.1.2, I mentioned the per diems a while ago as some of the new judges have been appointed. One of the judges had moved, I think maybe two of the judges had moved from the Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court, so it did cause an adjustment there. 10.1.4, just a capture of some savings from later hires. DOAS Section 12, no changes. Department of Ag, you'll see some other adjustments again for start dates. 13.4.2, dealing with the GATE program. Just some minor adjustments to some of the dollars included there by the time they get the person boots on the ground and up and running. And 13.4.3, just capturing some savings from a later start date. 13.7.1, and I want to stop for a second on this particular item. Back during our special session in November, after the events of Hurricane Michael, we had done something that we've never done as a state before, and that was looked at offering aid or doing some type of aid package to agricultural producers across this state. And while gratuities clause within the Constitution prohibits us being able to offer direct aid, what we can do is offer aid through financing through the Georgia Development Authority, which is a banking arm of the state of Georgia. And so what you'll see there is an additional $10 million placed into the Georgia Development Authority for some more loans. We put $55 million in during the special session. Those loans have, within a period of about 8 weeks from kind of start to now, those loans have been made. There are about 124 of those that have already been made. They project by Friday, tomorrow, that the entire $55 million will be lent out. The average loans right now are $290,000, and if you take $290,000 divided into $10 million, that will tell you that we'll get approximately 35 more loans out the door. There are about 100 additional loan requests that are not able to be funded at this point, but this does take that number, helps take that number down somewhat. Section 14, banking and finance, no changes. Behavioral health, at 15.8.3, again, just recognizing some one-time savings due to delayed implementation dates on that one. Section 16, DCA, 16.3.3, another reduction for later starting dates. Community health, Section 17, I think you're going to see a couple of changes at 17.12.1 and 2. 12.1 is a reduce because of the actual number of contracts is not what was budgeted for, so we're just capturing the savings there. And then at 1712.2, taking the next step to work toward MCG becoming another one of 2 National Cancer Institute designated facilities here in the state of Georgia. And they started down that process about 5 or 6 years ago, I believe it was, Butch. And so we're just trying to help them make the next step in that journey. Moving on to Department of Community Supervision at Section 18, no changes. Corrections, Section 19, no changes. Defense, Section 20, no changes. Section 21, Driver Services, no changes. Decal at Section 22, no changes. Economic Development, Section 23, no changes. Section 24, Department of Education. 24.1.2, the capture of savings from a later actual start date on the young farmer position. And at 24.1.3, helping the couple of our state FFA camps around the state, one in Covington and one at Fort Valley, with some security issues down there to allow them to have a deputy sheriff on the grounds while children are present. We will be looking at some additional measures for all of our youth camps, not only FFA but 4-H as well, to make sure that our kids are safe while they're there. 24.2.1, the audio video technology film grants. At this point, have withdrawn that $3.5 million request, not recommending any further funds in there for the time being. 24.6.1, Chief Turnaround Officer. Again, just some savings from later hire dates. 24.18.1, and you'll see this basically the same thing again as we go through the next 2 or 3 items. Just a truing up of the numbers from later information on student counts at 24.18.1, 24.19.1, and also at 24.19.2. School security grants at 24.22.1. Going in and looking at that, realized that there were a few facilities that had been missed, some of our college and career academies and some of our GNET facilities around the state had been missed in the initial walkthrough of looking at who would get those security grants. So we've gone back and tried to make sure we've got everyone covered there. 24.24.2 under state schools. As many of you may or may not know, we do operate 3 state schools around the state of Georgia. Atlanta Area School for the Deaf, School for the Blind, one in Macon and one in Cave Spring. And those schools have no auxiliary power backup. So in the event of an ice storm, a tornado, something coming through, they have no way to power those schools, which are residential schools, for those students that are there. So what we're doing is recommending they're equipping 2 of those schools with emergency power generators, backup generators, so that heat, air conditioning, lights, those essential services for those students within those residential facilities will be taken care of in the event of a storm. Section 25, ERS, no changes. Section 26, Forestry Commission, no changes. 27, Office of the Governor, I think you're going to see there is one adjustment. It's not a change from the Governor's rec, but just noted in 27.7.2, some increased funds for the projected need of the AP test that we pay for our students statewide. Section 28, Human Services. 28.6.2, 28.6.3, and 28.6.4. As we have added caseworkers for DFACs, they've got a pretty good lag on the ability to fully spool up on all of those hires. So there were some cost savings to be captured there. So what we've done is there's a $504,000 request at 28.6.2. We've just said use some of those surplus funds to fund that. The same with 28.6.3. And then at 28.6.4, Chair Lady Dempsey and her committee, understanding that quite often one agency doesn't necessarily have a good way to talk to another agency as it relates to issues going on within a home. And so what this does is help stand up a predictive data analytics program for DFACs that allows them to see a whole lot easier anything that might be a trigger for a reason for concern for the safety and well-being of our most vulnerable population. So all the changes in Section 28. Moving on to Section 29. At 29.5.3, a reduction in funds based on the later hiring dates of some special fraud investigators. But also at 29.5.4, they came to us with a need for officer safety there. They're having to use cell phones, and as we know, there are many places within our state where you do not have cell phone coverage. And as these insurance fraud investigators are going out, they're finding that right now their biggest issue is dealing with MS-13 gang activity, committing most of the insurance frauds. And so they're just needing to make sure that an officer, once they're on the scene, if there's an issue, they do have a clear communication channel. So we're letting them utilize $121,800 in existing funds to purchase those radios to equip those officers for their safety. Section 30, GBI, 30.1.2. As we've made some adjustments, we've been able to reach into the FY20 budget and pull some one-time expenditures back into the 19, and one of those is at 30.1.2, and that is funds for the design of the Northwest Georgia GBI Crime Lab. This is something that our late Chairman Meadows had been working on for quite some time, so we have brought that forward to get that design process up and going a little bit earlier. 30.3.2, again, a deduction for later hire dates. 30.3.3, pulled some one-time expenses from the 20 into the 19 for some lab equipment for 5 scientists and 1 lab technician under their forensic sciences services there. Looking then also at 30.4.3, there are some funds there that are would lapse otherwise, so we're just telling them to use that for some of the payout on retirement and sick leave payout. Section 31, juvenile justice, 31.1.2. We again go in and look at that, and that actually pays for beds for juvenile detainees if they're needing some type of a treatment service, and they've not needed all of the beds that we allocated for, so we're capturing the savings there. And then at 31.4.2, just capturing the savings from the Cadwell Regional Youth Detention Center not being opened when it was projected to be opened. Section 32, Department of Labor, no changes. 33, Department of Law, again an adjustment at 33.1.2 for start dates. Natural Resources, no changes. Pardons and paroles at 35.2.4. That is what would be an ongoing expense, and we typically do not start ongoing expenses within an amended budget, so we're moving it to the 20 budget to look at it there. State Properties Commission at 36, no changes. Public Defenders, Section 37, there was an unmet need so far for the replacement of some aging computer equipment at 37.1.2, so we've gone ahead and provided for that there. 37.2.2, some additional funds needed for retirement leave payouts, and then some savings at 37.2.3 based on actual start dates. Section 38, Department of Public Health, an add at 38.1.3. As we started out, it started out as the Georgia Alzheimer's Project a couple of years ago. It's now called Georgia Memory Net. It is a function of a group of locations around the state of Georgia to help with earlier diagnosis of dementia and Alzheimer's-related illnesses. So now is the point that those are stood up and ready to operate and are operating, is time now to get the word out that those are out there to help those families that are dealing with those issues. And so that $350,000 is a one-time ad to get those services advertised out across the state. 38.3.2, reduction in personal services from just some savings that we were able to find there. Section 39, public safety. 39.1.2, just saying use some unutilized funds that you already have for funding those retirement leave payouts due to some staggered hiring schedules. Field services under 39.4, 39.4.2 at 4.3 and 4.4, using some of the funds already on hand from later hire dates to be able to fund those three items there. 39.5.2, again, utilizing existing funds to do those payouts. And then at 39.8.2 at Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, they'd asked for the ability to archive and destroy some documents. We do need at this point to make a small change in the code section related to how long they have to maintain those records. And we felt like at this point it's best to make the change and then come back in and do what we need to do to rectify that issue and situation. Section 40, Public Service Commission. You'll see a slide ad at 40.3.4, $100,000 ad there for some personnel to be able to retain some very highly qualified individuals over there as they continue to track the progress on Plant Vogel and some other projects going on in the state. And through using some later hire dates, we're able to pay for a couple of other asks that they have as well. Section 41, Board of Regents. At 41.1.1 and 43.1.1, again, going back and looking at actual start dates for those research scientists that are split between those two program areas, we were able to capture some savings there. 41.14.2, some additional funds for our public libraries. And then 41.15.1, the Georgia Center for Rural Prosperity and Innovation that we stood up last year down at ABAC, as they're getting up and rolling. Again, even though it's kind of the house baby, I would say it that way. It's the house Barrett's and Speaker's baby, probably is a better way to put it. But looking at it and realizing that as we've gone through and swept these other agencies looking for excess funds and sitting there talking with them, they felt that they would have some excess funds that they could turn back over for us to be able to use for other initiatives. So that's what we've done. 41.19.1 under Vet Med Experiment. Again, looking at the actual start date. Payments to the Georgia Military College, we made a couple of adjustments there. 41.21.3, looking at the funding formula, they're actually fully funded in the FY20 budget for the K-12 prep school. And then at 41.21.5, they were also missed on the school security grants, so we've added $30,000 for that. Department of Revenue, again at 42.6.2, capturing some savings from later hires. Secretary of State, Section 43, no changes. 44, Student Finance. Under 44.3.1, the engineering scholarship that has been a huge part of our initiative to maintain Robins Air Force Base with the employees that they need, both private sector and military sector. The state of Georgia has had a long-standing relationship with several schools around the state to provide some engineering scholarships. There was going to be a little bit of a shortfall there, so you'll see a $26,250 ad there in that category. Next, TRS, Section 45, no changes. Technical College System, no changes. DOT, no changes because the changes that were necessary there were made during the special session, so there was nothing to adjust there. Veteran Services, no changes. And then Workers' Compensation Board, Section 49, no changes. Replant. Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer any questions or allow you to entertain a motion, whichever.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You apparently did a quite comprehensive job. There are no questions that I see. There was a motion to pass by committee substitute and several seconds. All in favor? Aye. And opposed? We got a bill. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We are adjourned.
All right, the meeting will come to order. We do not have a consideration calendar today. The committees are being sort of slow passing stuff out, and that's okay. And but we do have one item to come before us this morning, and that's going to be HB 30, which is the amended budget. And Chairman England is over there to present it to us. And welcome Chairman England to the Committee on Rules meeting room.
That is merely a temporary name for it, from 9 until 9:15 or so. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, good to be with you all this morning. Mr. Chairman, I would say congratulations on your new role. And of all the Rules Committee chairmen, I've had the pleasure and honor of serving alongside you. You're the most recent.
Are you here for some particular purpose?
And that's all I got to say about that. Members of the committee, we do have House Bill 130, which is the amended budget for FY19. I think just about every one of y'all were in here in our committee meeting a little while ago. I'm glad to answer any questions you may have, but otherwise ask for your favorable consideration to place it on the floor for tomorrow.
All right, we're going to set the calendar for tomorrow. HB 30. It's on. We're adjourned.